We start in Afghanistan. At least 21 people have been killed and dozens wounded after a car bomb exploded in the eastern province of Logar on Friday. No group has yet claimed responsibility. The deadly incident came just a day after the United States began withdrawing troops from Afghanistan, a move U.S. President Joe Biden says will be completed by September the 11th this year. For more on that, let's cross live to our correspondent Mohammed Hadith Pardis in Kabul. So Mohammed, tell us more about Friday's attack.
Thank you. Yesterday night, a car bomb full of explosive material blasted in Pul Alam, the city of the center city of the Logar province, and according to the recent figures, 21 people have been killed and 91 people have been wounded, and the fatality rate would be definitely changed. And the Ministry of Interior of Afghanistan confirmed that 21 people have been killed and 91 people wounded. And a few minutes ago, I just talked with the doctors and the hospitals, and they were saying that the wounded, some of the wounded people, their health situation is not very much good, and so we were expecting the rates will be high. The today date is very much important and crucial for Afghanistan, because from today the U.S. will officially start withdrawal of its forces from Afghanistan. But it is not very much clear that through which mechanism the U.S. will leave Afghanistan. But before that, the Afghan government and President Mushtaq Rahim himself did elaborate that Afghan government will work with the international community and as well as with the United States for smooth transition, and according to him, for a dignified withdrawal. But on the other hand, the Taliban elaborated that they will violently react for the withdrawal of foreign forces, which with the U.S. officials and the Pentagon officials already said that they will defend from it. When it comes to the ordinary people, the recent, if we take example of the recent attacks in Logars, the ordinary people, when we are talking with them, they are just keep asking for a comprehensive and permanent ceasefire, and they have the fear if the United States and the international community leave Afghanistan with its own. So it looking to the previous practice and also to the previous experience, it would be very much difficult for the warring parties in Afghanistan to come together and find a political solution. And if the international community and the United States leave Afghanistan by its own, the Afghan people will be suffering every day for the devastating wave of violence, which the recent and the good example is the last night bloody and devastating attacks, which takes dozens innocent lives in Afghanistan.
Mohammed, how's the security situation in Kabul right now? Because during this live, we hear helicopters hovering above. Is this kind of a strengthened security in Kabul, or it's just a part of the routine?
Pardon, I can't hear you properly, but if I understand you, you're asking about the security situation. Look, Peng, here after withdrawal of U.S. forces or foreign troops from Afghanistan, the two scenarios that the Afghan people are expecting, the one is the best scenario and the second is the worst scenario. The best scenario would be that the warring parties, that they come together and find kind of a political solution for the ongoing dispute and pave the way for an inclusive government. The worst scenario would be that withdrawal of foreign forces, which from today's officially it starts, the warring parties would intensify the war in Afghanistan, and they will think that through military means they can win the war. Which is not, when in the general perception, the main concern and fear with the people is if the warring parties not come together and find a political solution, and the United States already leave Afghanistan. So it would be kind of a very kind of tense situation, and unfortunately the ordinary people, the citizens, will suffer much more from this kind of situation.
Thank you very much. Our correspondent Mohammed Hadis Padis in Kabul. For more insight, let's cross live to Mr. Mushtaq Rahim in Kabul. He's an independent political and security analyst. Thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Rahim. So, the US troops didn't find Osama bin Laden in Afghanistan. Instead, he was killed in Pakistan. But during the past 2 decades, we heard so many incidents of US and NATO troops killing civilians in Afghanistan. Tell us more about the widespread trauma suffered by the Afghan people in the past 20 years.
Well, when we talk about the trauma and the losses to the conflict, let's not stick to 20 years. It is now over 40 years that during the different phases of the ongoing conflict, which started with the invasion of the Russians of Afghanistan, went into a civil war, and then Americans invaded the country. Throughout, it has been the civilians who have been bearing the brunt. Of course, the Afghan forces, the international forces, be it Russians or the Americans, as well as the opposition side, initially Mujahideen and the Taliban, have been facing. But yes, the major losses have been on the part of the Afghan people, and there have been significant losses on all parts for the people of Afghanistan. There have been families who have been totally diminished, have lost all of their men. Only last week we were hearing from a member of the parliament from one part of the country saying that almost all men of one district have been lost in the war. So that has been traumatic. Afghans have suffered significantly, and I think this is the time where the Afghan people are in need of support of the regional countries for the sake of Afghanistan and the regional security and stability, that we get rid of the conflict, because the main element, the main reason for the last 20 years conflict at least, have been the presence of international forces in Afghanistan, which is withdrawing from the country, and it's an opportunity to find a solution to the Afghan conflict and allow a conciliation among the warring parties for better security and stability of the country and the entire region.
So let's talk about the future a little bit. Do you think it's the right time for Afghanistan to pick up that reconciliation process and eventually reach national peace and maybe stability and development at the end? What are the challenges along this long path?
Well, absolutely. We have a very genuine opportunity right now. For the first time, the main reason.
Well, Mr. Mushtaq Rahim in Kabul, it looks like we encounter some technical difficulties right now. Earlier, for more on the topic, we also talked to Professor Joseph Gregory Mahoney in the U.S. city of Memphis. Take a listen.
Given the commitment that Trump had made to come out, the pressure is really significant on Biden to come out. I think the United States has really accomplished all that it could. There was this old logic from one of the previous secretaries of state that said that if you broke it, you had to fix it. But it's clear that we may have broken Afghanistan, but we're also incapable of fixing it. So, really at this point, he's going to come out one way or the other. Whether or not the Taliban or other forces may try to game this or just quietly let the U.S. pull out remains to be seen. But the bottom line is the U.S. is coming out.